Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June edition of the Burlington Electric Commission meeting here. Meets every second Wednesday of the month, generally at 5:30, but at 6 o'clock tonight we got some other things going on. But generally 5:30 right here, 585 fine. Sorry, my bad. Come on down, join the conversation. We'd love to hear your input. That said, we'll start with the first item on the agenda is the agenda. Are there any changes, deletions, additions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 2, minutes of the May 14th, 2025 meeting. Unless there are, if there are spelling errors, that sort of stuff, we can refer that to the clerk, but are there any substantive changes that need to be made to the minutes of May 14th? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion. We have a motion to approve as presented. Do I have a second? As presented, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicate by saying nay. Alan, you have the floor.
My name's Alan Birkey. It's good to see you again. I'm here to hold your feet to the fire, or ask you to hold the department's feet to the fire on the issue of miscellaneous tariffs. There is, as you may know, I'm sure, a specific tariff for miscellaneous fees. And those fees have been unchanged for a very long time. For example, smart meters have since happened. So instead of sending somebody into the field to read a meter, if an account is changing from one person to another, that's now done from the desktop, and it takes just a few minutes. And so, gosh, in 2022, I started coming to visit with you and talk to you about the fact that rental housing in Burlington is expensive. And one of the reasons is because rental property owners like me get hit with all of these miscellaneous fees. And one of them, in particular, as regard to you folks, is that if in between tenants, I go in and put the account on my name, let's say they leave it on the 25th, the account goes into my name so that I can clean and paint and get it ready for the next person, and then the new tenant takes over on the 1st, I pay a $30 flat service charge just for putting that into my name for that period of time. Now, a couple things about that. I already have an account, so you're not setting up a new account. Number 2, I actually have a standing order, so that if the power were to go out of the apartment tenant's name for any reason, it goes into my name. So nobody even has to call the department to say that that this needs to happen. And so the $30 fees seem to be out of line with reality. And so in September of 2022, I brought that to your attention. I pointed out that you, as the commissioners, are responsible for making sure that the department is charging fees fairly, and that this provision is something that would require a tariff to replace, and that you have, in fact, the power to ask the department to make it. Following up on that, I joined you again in November of 2022 with a survey, and I pointed out to you that of the 17 electric utilities in Vermont, only 3 charge a fee to transfer the account into the landlord's name for a short period to do that sort of cleaning and maintenance. And BED's was 50% higher than anybody else. And many don't charge a fee at all. And in response to that, eventually, in March of 2024, the department did do their time and motion studies and came up with a fee schedule of what the fees most appropriately should be. So for example, they said that the $30 fee should in fact be $6, meaning landlords like me are currently being charged 400% of the actual cost to provide that service, to change it. And, but the commission voted to make those changes. All the changes are here. I've highlighted for you. I didn't print all the minutes, just what you might need to see. And then in June, Mr. Springer reported to you that the City Council and the Board of Finance had approved those. So why is it that the tariff hasn't even been filed yet? We're more than a year later. They've filed other tariffs. They've gotten other tariffs. They get their rate tariffs in. But it's been more than a year since City Council and 14 or so months since you folks said, yes, department, please do this. And it hasn't happened. So when I say I'm here to hold somebody's feet to the fire, Mr. Springer doesn't have to listen to me. But theoretically, he's interested in listening to you. So I would ask that you stay on top of this, ask him to do it, and I look forward to the rest of the summer knowing that it's being taken care of. Any questions, or I'm set?
To read this, just read on from what you said, I guess my first question would be, why? Where did this where did this go?
Well, I have communicated with Emily, who said they've been busy, and that they plan to do it. And I'm sure Mr. Springer can give you more detail about that. But there's no different issue than was approved in March of 2024. The specific rates that you were going to ask for each thing were all laid out, and the City Council approved you going forward with that. So I'm interested to hear as well.
Would you like me to jump in?
I would love it.
Okay, and Emily can jump in as well, or James, but we have to get PUC approval to make these changes. And we have been working with our regulator, the Department of Public Service, to get their agreement on the format in which we can file the miscellaneous fees. And correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't had that yet.
We just met with them last Friday or Thursday, after several weeks of asking for a meeting.
And we've been working on it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been requesting a meeting for a while, so we've had that conversation, we have clarity now.
Okay. So it's really just, it's that simple. We can't proceed at the
And this is not the only issue we're attempting to resolve and would like to resolve with changes either.
Yeah, that's right. There's a broad set of changes, obviously, but we can't proceed at the PUC and have success if the Department of Public Service isn't supporting what we're trying to do. And there's been a lot of back and forth over many weeks trying to get their, getting the clarity on how to file these with the PUC and the way that they're supporting. It's just as simple as that.
So you're saying it takes a couple of weeks, several weeks?
No, I'm saying we've been trying to
2
raise
months,
this
3
with
months.
the Department of Public Service for a long time. I think, James, how long have you been corresponding on this issue?
Months and months. I don't know. I could look and see. I'm happy to take a quick scan of my email, see the last time, but we're not talking weeks. We're talking an extended period. And you need to understand that despite the approval of the City Council, we cannot put these into effect at all without approval of the PUC, and filing a format that we know the Department of Public Service is going to have an issue with guarantees that that's a long process. So we're trying to make sure that when we do file, we're not at odds with the Department of Public Service as well. So again, I'm happy to take a quick look right now, but it's been a long time.
And when we file a rate case, that's agreed upon format. That's easy. We know how to do that. It's not easy to put together, but the format at least is easy, and the process. Whereas this is something we haven't done, as you pointed out, in a while. And so we have the need to get the department to join us in saying, okay, this is the right way to go about it. Otherwise, we'll file, they'll comment, it'll go through a lengthier process once we get to the PUC.
The only thing I'd like to add is that there are a couple of other utilities that have done miscellaneous fee changes in the last year. And so the format, I would think, is out there. It's not like it's that dramatic a thing. All utilities have this miscellaneous fee format. Others have done it, and you can do what lawyers do, like I do, and you've done, I'm sure. You go and see somebody that did it right and copy it.
It's not that simple, unfortunately. Because different utilities, and again, I'm not the expert on this issue, James or Emily can correct me, different utilities have had it in different places within their own some have had it in tariffs, some have not had it in tariffs. Am I correct on that?
They're all tariffs.
They have
But
tariffs.
there's a different form or format that
I'm-
not every
I'm-
utility has done it the same way. James, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was one of the problems, was there's different formats. And again, we are not just trying to solve one problem. We are also trying to solve other problems. So we don't want to make legal filings to solve a single problem. We want to incur the cost and the time to solve all of the issues that need to be solved. To the earlier question, at a minimum, I'm seeing emails to the Department of Public Service that go back to early this year, January, February.
So is it typical for things to drag?
This has been a miserable
We've had a
process.
difficult period of time over the last several months with a variety of regulatory issues, not just this one. So is it typical? Depends on the time you're looking at, but we aren't just busy and ignoring this. We have been trying to work the problem, but we want to do it in a way we're going to be successful at the PUC.
And it sounds like what James is saying is that you started working on it in beginning of 2025.
At least,
Found
I'm not,
with the department dating back to that point.
This is on your plate, not mine, but thank you for allowing me to come and raise it. And you may see me again in October.
I appreciate you coming.
You bet.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question. Is this the same package of fees that included, it was like it was a whole bunch, it was several kind of equity-based fee changes?
Yeah, it's a package you all approved, and it went to
Yeah.
Council and Board of Finance, and then needed to go to the PUC, and when we went into that process, we got a difference of opinion from the department, is my recollection, and we've been trying to work through that difference of opinion with them for a long period of time. And if I remember correctly, James had requested meetings over a lengthy period of time, had not been able to get one. We had a broader meeting with the department on a variety of issues. That was a couple months ago, where we brought this up, and we've done subsequent work since. It sounds like earlier this week, or last week, maybe we got some of the clarity we need from them. But it's been a lengthy process to get the
Yeah,
time with them to have this conversation.
yeah, I believe we do have a significantly improved clarity as of Emily, whether it was, I think, late last week. And it's now on Amber's and my task to do a really heavy revision of our operating guidelines to both streamline them, to reduce the number of times we've got to go in to get approvals, but also to resolve this issue, an issue with multiple metering, and a couple of other things. Again, we're not trying to solve one problem here. We're trying to get one filing that solves a bunch of problems and updates the miscellaneous fees. When we file a filing like this, in a rate case, for example, as Darren was mentioning, there's a pre-existing structure. Regardless of what we do, we can start collecting the revenues. 45 days later as a surcharge. You've all heard that stuff before. These changes cannot go into approval by the Public Utility Commission, and that can take as long as it needs to take at the end of the day. So we're trying to shorten the approval process, but that's coming at the cost of front end. If we file these and the Department of Public Service immediately sends an email saying, or a filing saying, these all look awesome and we support them totally, that's a very different approval process than if we file a proposal and they disagree with it.
In your meeting, did you get any sense of the timeline? Was it just more of finally connecting and?
Well, the timeline at the end of the day, there's two timelines. There's our process to develop the work in-house, and then the timeline at the PUC is not under the Department of Public Services control.
I wasn't in this meeting, but it sounds like we at least got their agreement on the format in which to proceed. So,
Yeah, but it's going to be a revision. Emily, how long are our current guidelines?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they're voluminous. This is going to be a drastic shortening, but we need to see how the things that are being shortened will still be reflected if they're required. So it's just a bit of it's a completely different way of looking at it, I think.
And it doesn't make sense to break things apart, like if it's because you've
I've-
combined so many things together, is that the problem?
I've suggested, and we've floated with the department the possibility of doing just that, and they were amenable to that. So that is certainly one of the options we floated with them.
Yeah, because it's been over a year,
You incur that more lawyer time and all that.
and that was a really good policy, I thought, that was a, yeah.
we're supportive of it.
Yeah.
That's why we want to get it at the PUC, but,
Sounds like in short, you're caught in the middle of a bunch of government red tape.
They can go separately on just the miscellaneous fee tariff and get it done without bogging it down with a whole bunch of other operating guidelines and other things that apparently has a lot of pages to it.
True, but I understand they're wanting to package it all as one deal to save lawyer time and all that kind of, all those fees that are incurred with doing it all.
But this is important,
Sorry you
I
got
think.
caught in that, in this
It
mess.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, we're not at the GM report, but I mentioned in here in very light language that we're in the midst of a level of regulatory engagement that is unprecedented my entire time at the department. And the same folks who are having this conversation are in the middle of a number of high-profile regulatory conversations, including having to file a rate case Friday, which requires immense amount of work. And we've had dockets initiated not by us and not by the department, but by the PUC. I'm going to detail this in more when we get to the GM report, but we only have a few folks really within the department who can deal with the regulatory process, and I would say we are completely inundated at this point. James, Emily, myself, and a few others with various regulatory issues. So it did get caught up in a broader dynamic with the Department of Public Service where we were seeking different things and they were seeking different things, and we had to have a meeting just to unlock some good collaborative efforts to move some of those things forward. In some cases we'll agree, in some cases we won't. Ultimately, yes, you can file things and not have them be in support, but it creates a lot more process potentially than if they are supportive. So I think it's still the right path. I think these are on a path to get done. I'm not concerned that they're not going to get done, but I'm just conscious of the burden that the limited team that does the regulatory piece is under with a variety of aspects. I appreciate your frustration. If I was in your shoes, I'd be wondering, hey, why hasn't this gotten done yet? When you're here looking at the variety of regulatory issues and the limited team members we have to deal with it, you can also get frustrated with the regulatory process, so I share some of that. And I appreciate you raising it. It's not that we don't care. It really is that there's been some other dynamics in play. So keep on us. Come back if we haven't gotten it done several months from now. I think that's fair. Sure. I don't think that hurt any of us. That was more of a budget issue. Yeah, but that's not, yeah. Yeah, we didn't require this type of regulatory process.
Thank you, Alan.
Just one last thought, is there a chance we could get maybe an update next meeting?
Absolutely.
And just make sure it's part of the agenda,
Yeah,
or
I'll
the
make
GM,
those.
it could be part of your update.
Well, another item is we're revamping the whole report, so when we touch on that, we can touch on this being an item of commission interest, and we'll cover it, for sure.
Great. I'm surprised, but not surprised that, I'm surprised.
I'll go into greater detail when we get to that item.
Any other public comment? I don't see anybody online or in the building, and thank you, Alan. Moving on to Commissioner's Corner. This is a point where commissioners have an opportunity to bring up things that have happened over the last month that they feel is worthy of bringing up to the board and the department about electric things or whatever. So whoever has anything to offer up?
I do not.
No, nothing? All right. Moving on, DeForest Road electric service and street lighting upgrades with Paul. I get nervous when I hear street lighting.
I know, I do too.
That's why we're
No need to be nervous, we're following
Yeah, proactive.
the revised procedures.
This is true, this is true. Good evening, Mike Kennerick, Paul Nadeau. We are here to tell you about some work that's going to be starting likely in early July on DeForest Road, not DeForest Heights, but DeForest Road in Ward 5. And as you all know, safety is our number one value. So as part of keeping people safe and keeping electrical service upgraded and up to date and reliable, we sometimes perform work underground, up in poles and wires. In this case, we're going to be doing electric service upgrade work by retiring cable that's in the ground and putting conduit in with cable in it. Paul can tell you more about that. But when we do that kind of work, we also look at street lighting at the same time, because it makes sense if you're going to be doing work in a certain area and digging up trenches, you can do it all together. There's economies of scale and efficiency. And so the reason I'm here is from the kind of customer-facing perspective. We want to let you folks know that when street lighting work is done, and we follow what's called the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America, or IES standards, the street lighting generally gets brighter than it was, because the street lighting that's been there is older and not up to those standards, and those standards are ones we follow as the commission and city council have said we do, and it's part of our street lighting policy. And so when that happens, there is often community member comment about, wow, the street lighting got really bright, it's too bright, it's shining in my window, and we want to try to follow the rules and communicate well in advance so folks know what's coming, so folks have a chance to provide input. And so what we've done so far is I've spoken personally to the city councilors who cover Ward 5, so Councilors Becca Brown McKnight and Buddy Singh, let them know this is happening.
It's Ward 6.
So sorry, Ward 6, Buddy is 5 and 6, thank you. And so I've had conversations with them. We've worked on a draft letter that will soon go out to everybody on DeForest Road, and some people on Overlake, because the work goes right up to that road. We'll let them know what's happening in very transparent terms, and also, before work is done, invite folks to comment and have conversation, and we'll do that in a few ways. One way is that we'll have 2 walkthroughs where Paul and I will be out there. People can actually, we will meet up. We have a designated spot. We'll pick a couple different times, different days, different times, so we can try to get as many people who want to come. Both the city councilors indicated that they would like to join us. And so we will do that. We can show people what's going to happen, answer questions, talk to them about it. Also, Paul and another one of our engineers, Stephen, are available. The letter will include their email address and phone number if folks have questions. And people, of course, can always come to these meetings and provide input. One thing I did want to say is, we, and Paul can talk about the order in which we do things and how we figure out where we're doing what work when. But in this instance, sometime in the last couple of years, we had a community member express concern about her early morning commute, which involved walking on DeForest Road, and it was very dark. And that person spoke to a former city councilor who reached out to us. So we do hear from community members on that, and so that gets back to the safety aspect. And so that's kind of the big picture of what we're going to be doing, and I turn it over to Paul to add anything I may have missed and or to answer questions you all have.
Yeah, so aside from obviously the street lighting upgrades that have to happen to have the street meet IES standards, there's also some sections of wire that run in the green space along that road that need to be upgraded so that actually we ease replacement should they fail. Stuff is direct buried. So we're going to be replacing some direct buried segments and putting in conduit. All this stuff will be outlined in the letter so everybody's very clear on what we're doing. And then also the street lighting that's there will be replaced with decorative fixtures because it is a existing decorative road. So it will not be the fiberglass pole with the Cobra heads. It'll be the Renaissance fixture that we've agreed upon. So yeah, I don't think we can. I don't think other than that, I think that's very top level of what we're planning to do there.
We, of course, wanted you all to know
Yep.
because you may get questions as
Right.
well.
So the residents have no choice, right? This has to be done, this is the way that it works.
We have an obligation that when we start doing work on the street, we
It's
have
like
to upgrade the
ADA or
street lighting.
something else like
Yeah,
that, right?
well, yeah, that's part of our street lighting
Right.
policy is that when we do work on these streets, we have to. And then also what adds on to that is there was a public safety concern, which makes it get into the queue of stuff we should look at.
And, you know, your question brings up a good point. We tried to get across in the letter, too. We don't want to say, hey, we want to hear from you and get your input and say, it doesn't matter, we're doing it anyway. The idea of the input was more to try as best we can by showing them the design. Someone might say, ooh, can you tell me more about that light that looks like it's going to be right outside the sidewalk from my house? What kind of light will that throw this way? And I've learned a lot from working with Paul and members of his team, but we take time to try to design a street lighting plan that puts light poles away from houses where possible, like
Yep.
in between houses, on one side of the street versus the other, if it seems like the light that's thrown off will impact a residence less. But even though we do that, a customer may ask a question that may lead Paul and his team to think, maybe we can tweak that a little, maybe we can move a pole. But interestingly, with the street lighting upgrades, inevitably, it's not even just replacing the given poles where they are now. In most cases, there are more poles added because they're necessary to get the lighting standard where it needs to be.
Yep.
The decorative streetlights, I will say, just from a commission point of view and hearing from people, the community members tend to like those more. They're more aesthetically pleasing than the big Cobra heads. I don't think they're as tall, right?
No, they're about half
Right.
the height.
And I think it means sometimes fewer complaints because they're not up as high, but now I'm just thinking out loud. It may be that you need more of them, though, to throw off enough light.
It's certainly, yes, it results in more light posts. And that being said, because this is a street that has a lesser amount of traffic, we have it down at the lower end of the standard compared to a more high traffic area where we have to meet a higher light standard. So it's as low as it can get and still meeting the standard.
I just want to express gratitude for enacting the plan. We talked, we worked on and have, public come in and talk about things, and you've done that in spades, so appreciate that, and thanks for engaging the community and counselors and all that. That's great. The one question I had was, when we got into this, was it just last year? Was it longer than that?
2 years ago,
Probably a
maybe?
couple
2 years
years,
ago.
yeah, probably a couple years.
The conversation for Lyman was about the choice of decorative or not, based on scarfs decorative. And I just didn't know if now, if certain members of the public saw new decoratives going in, do you have a kind of a response to that to make sure that we're making that conversation more, folks can understand it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it probably comes down to just letting folks know that there's a certain policy in certain
Yeah, there's a
parts of the city, certain roads.
So for Lyman, not to go back down the Lyman route,
Sorry.
but no worries. The Lyman was originally an overhead circuit. Lyman had so therefore it had poles and it had fixtures on those poles. So we would replace similar with similar. On Deforest Road, they already have, albeit a much older, a decorative fixture. So our practice is to replace like with like. So that's why we're doing it on Deforest Road like it is.
And, we are even going as far in the letter, we hadn't done this before, and it was actually an idea of one of the two city councilors when I spoke on the phone with them. They said, can you include in the letter an example of a street that has had this done in the not-too-distant past so that folks could go at night and see what it looks like? And so we're going to tell them about Scarf between Wells and Richardson, and
Yep.
hopefully some of those folks will take the time to go see what it's like after dark, and that could inform the conversation we have when we do our
Yep.
walkthroughs.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very difficult, right? Because you can't win, like, move it this in, you know, it helps me, it hurts him, yeah. Some people want it dark, some people want it light, but yeah, good luck.
We
Yeah.
try our best to get, to Mike's point, we try our best to avoid putting lights where they're gonna be directly in somebody's field of vision. But that being said, as you start adjusting lights, everything, almost every light on a street gets affected by moving one light. So we have to approach it with some practicality, but we'll do our best to address any concern.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck. I hope it all goes well. I mean, I think this sounds like a good plan. It's gonna be a tough street probably, but.
It's going to be it's going to be a little bit more challenging, yes.
Do you already have any sense of where you're gonna, what that design looks like?
We have
Can
a
you already tell whether or
preliminary
not you're gonna
design.
put, have you already sort of plotted that out, or whether or not?
We have,
You may have to
yeah,
add
we have,
more
we have
or-
we have an idea of where the poles need to be. What we need to do is, that could change with the civil plan and what he runs into, so we might have to adjust according to that. And also it needs sign off from from our distribution superintendent to make sure we're all in the right spot. But yes, we have a preliminary design.
Is that something you're gonna share with the residents, so they can take a
Yes,
look
prior
into
to us
that?
having the meeting, we're gonna have a plan that's ready for showtime, yeah.
Yeah, great.
I just had a general question. How often do those replacements occur in the city? Like, what's the cadence?
I mean, we have a set budget of what we want to do for street lighting. We have been trying to not impact as many residential areas recently because there's a little bit more attention that needs to happen on major throughways. Also with the Champlain Parkway, there's some budget issues there. Not issues, but money that's allotted. But in residential areas, probably going forward, probably one or so a year will be what we're gonna do. Yep. And we'll do this same approach.
And we'll learn from each one and
Yes.
try to do better and better.
That's all you can do.
Other questions? I would also reiterate the appreciation for, and this is the first time I think that we've all heard in detail what you all do when you go and do these things. I'm really impressed with the level of detail and care and concern that you're putting into this process now. So
Thank you.
That's great. That's
Thank you.
encouraging.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys. All righty, on to item number 6, financial review. Also, I'm gonna, just before I do that, I just wondering, you walked in, I didn't know, I'm not sure.
Bond counsel.
Is our bond
Okay,
counsel?
okay.
It's Kathy Zoe. They'll be up next.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. These are the financial results for April of 2025. We had a net income this month of 1.4 million as compared to a budgeted net loss of 1.2 million. So what's happening here is that the recs that we did not deliver in February got delivered in April. So as you remember, there's a large negative variance to budget in February. Here, there's a large positive variance to budget because of the timing of those deliveries. That's the main event, but I'll walk down through from the top. Sales to customers revenue was worse than budget by $159,000. Other revenues, other than power supply or sales to customers, most of that was EEU reimbursement, down $150,000 versus budget. And then the third line, power supply revenues, that's where you see the large positive variance of just about 2.8 million. Moving to expense, net power supply expense was unfavorable to budget by 1.6 million. 1.5 of that was the purchase of replacement Connecticut One recs to make sure that we could honor our contracts, our committed contracts to make up for the loss of Q3 2024 McNeil recs that were not minted properly in the GIS due to our data entry error. So that's the most significant driver of the variance in power supply expense. Georgia Mountain and Vermont Wind production was over budget. McNeil was offline most of the month for their annual maintenance outage. It was budgeted to run a little bit. It didn't run really at all. And then there was a small unfavorable variance in transmission as well in April. Non-power supply O&M was favorable to budget by $606,000. And then below the line in other income and deductions, there's a large variance there of about 1.1 million. We did receive 2 tranches of reimbursement from Vermont Emergency Management, which is the pass-through entity for FEMA, related to flooding damage at Winooski 1 from July 2023. So we're in the process of closing out that project. We'll be submitting more for reimbursement, but that's a good chunk of it has been requested and received in April. So then that leaves us at the year-to-date of an actual net income of 4.1 million as compared to budget of 2.4. So we're about 1.8 ahead of budget at this point in the year. I can also share a forecast with you, however, of where we project will actually end on June 30. We're forecasting a modest improvement over budget, a net income of about 3.5 million compared to a budget about 3.4. If we're essentially going to land on budget. May is a rec delivery month as well, the final rec delivery month of the fiscal year. You can see that year-to-date rec revenues there are a positive variance of 1.2 million. That's going to flip to a negative variance we project of around 180,000 because we had less production in 2024, so we had fewer recs to sell, and that's going to all sugar off in the May delivery period. So sort of despite the McNeil rec error and the lower rec production, sales to customers have been stronger than budget, and that's helping us to land, we think, at a net income pretty close to what we had budgeted to be at for the end of the year. Questions before I go to the next page?
It's a little complicated. But it ends well.
Makes it fun. Makes it fun. So capital spending, let's see, 59% of the total year budget, or about 7 million, of about 10.5 million where we had budgeted to be as of April. Trying to think here if there's anything. What's a big portion of what's driving the lower variance in the distribution budget is transformers, as noted there. There's about 1.2 million of ordered transformers still outstanding. And then operating cash, just about 9 million. We had budgeted to be about 9.9 million. So here you're seeing the cash impact of that rec purchase that we didn't expect to make. And then we are at a regular debt service coverage ratio of 5.47, an adjusted debt service coverage ratio of 1.44. And with the $10 million line of credit, we have 137 days cash on hand.
Questions? No?
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Stay right there, because up next, we have the refinancing of the 2014 Series 8 revenue bonds.
So for this item, I'm joined by Thomas Maloney and Kathy Zoe from Paul Frank and Collins, who are the bond counsel for BED and the city of Burlington. Before you, you have a memo from me. You have a savings analysis pro forma from the Vermont Bond Bank, and you have a supplemental resolution number 18, which will, with your approval, amend the general bond resolution, which authorizes the city's issuance of revenue bonds on the behalf of Burlington Electric. So what we're doing here tonight is something I've never done at BED, which is we're refinancing or refunding the 2014A revenue bonds, which we issued in 2014 for the purchase of the Winooski 1 hydro facility. That issuance provided that after July 1st, we could redeem any bonds maturing after that in order to refund them. And so what's outstanding in terms of principal as of July 1 will be about $6.5 million. And we believe, have we ever issued through the bond bank? Not in recent memory. It's
The
been a
electric
while.
the electric department is not issued through the bond bank, but the city has for the waterfront TIF district, and also as well as part of its regular borrowing, and through the wastewater improvement system
Right.
for refinancing through the bond bank.
Thank you. So looking at the savings here, it's quite modest. And our financial advisors, PFM, sort of looked at, could you do this or should you do this sort of on your own? And their advice was, no, it would not be worth it. You would pay as much or more in issuance costs as you would save. But going through the bond bank, we achieved some pretty good efficiencies and economies of scale in joining their pool. And so the issuance costs are quite modest at $35,000. And they also enjoy the state's credit rating as an instrumentality of the state, which is higher than ours. So that is the plan, and then I'll turn it to Thomas and Kathy to maybe take you through the resolution and any questions, and I can screen share if you'd like to see the documents as they're discussed.
Sure. I'll just give an overview of the process here. So 1981, the Board of Electric Commissioners, your predecessors, adopted a bond resolution that provides for issuance of bonds to finance all projects for what's defined as the electric plant for the city. And so under that bond resolution, we do supplemental resolutions that will come, that's before you now. This one is merely just for the refunding, the refinancing to save the ratepayers money, save the electric department money by paying off higher interest bonds issued in 2014 for the Winooski 1 project with bonds that will bear a lower interest rate. Through that process, it will still be through your original bond resolution with the supplement. The way the city charter works, it's your bond resolution. You're the one approving. You're responsible for management of the electric system for the city. The city council, though, has the right and obligation and approval process for any debt incurrence. So the first step is you adopt your supplemental resolution, and then this will go before the city council for their authorization. And then the mayor and the chief administrative officer and the general manager of BED will sign the specifics in terms of approvals. This is one where if between the Board of Electric Commissioners and the City Council approval and going through the bond bank, if the markets change where there's not savings to you, it probably won't go through. But also the market might be such that the savings could improve. So I just wanted to give you kind of that overview as to the process. Kathy will speak to the specific piece. The other piece is one of disclosure. We're going through the Vermont Bond Bank. My firm does some legal work for them, separate and apart from this. Any of these loans where the bond bank issues bonds, takes the money and loans it to Vermont municipalities, city included, in this case, those are all handled by a separate law firm. But I just, as part of kind of being upfront, and the city attorney, city knows, and has approved that. It's not as a conflict. So I think, this is been before you before, when you've approved for the net zero energy bonds that were issued a couple of years ago. Management will probably be back to you at some point for future project costs. But this one is a refunding, and the process that will go through your bond resolution to get you that, get you the money and get you the savings. So.
So
I just,
If I would just, correct me if I'm wrong, from like a layperson's point of view, is this somewhat akin to like refinancing my home at some point, and I'm just, refinancing the remainder of the loan, the $6 million that's left, at a lower interest rate to save? Is it very analogous to that?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay.
It's a refunding, paying off a higher interest rate loan with
a lower
a
interest
lower interest rate. And this, because it's past a 10-year, there's usually a 10-year period where you cannot do it. Now we've passed that 10-year period, so there's no premium or additional fee that you need to pay to the investors that hold your bonds. So it'll be just at basically what's outstanding.
Just want to make sure my head
Yep.
was straight about
yeah.
it.
So I wanted to give the board a little bit of background on this particular process specifically, because we are going through the bond bank, and we haven't really done that before at BED. So the idea is the bond bank summer pool, they'll probably issue bonds and, kind of close on all of this sometime in August. We have on the 2014 A bonds, a payment of principal and interest due July 1st, 2025. So my understanding is we're gonna pay that. And then, when the bond bank bonds are issued in August, that's when we'll have the funds to kind of refinance. So the amount of the refunding bonds that we're issuing will cover, the remainder of the principal payments that are outstanding, as well as a little bit of interest that takes us from from July to when we actually, have the cash to refund. With the bond bank, there are obviously the benefits of the higher credit rating, which means you probably get a better interest rate than if BD went out to market on its own. You also, as Emily mentioned, there are decreased costs of issuance. Normally, as with the net zero energy bonds back in 2022, if we were going to go do a public offering, we would have to prepare a preliminary official statement and then a final official statement. These are kinds of like the offering documents that you would provide to investors. And you probably have to engage PFM, who is the city's financial manager. And so, there would be a financial advisor, and so, there would be costs associated with that. All of those kinds of costs, those are carried by the bond bank when it issues its bonds. The one, I hesitate to call it a downside, but the one kind of thing that comes along with issuing through the bond bank is that the bond bank has what we call the intercept. This is statutory. It's part of the bond bank's. Rights, kind of. In the handoff is that when you issue through the bond bank, you take advantage of all these things. But on the other hand, if you fail to make a payment of principal or interest or whatever payment back to the bond bank, then the bond bank can kind of intercept any state funds that are payable to the municipality. And that is that's not just BED, that's the city of Burlington as a whole. We have spoken about this with folks at the city, with the chief administrative officer. The city is supportive of us going through the bond bank and being able to get these savings. But it's just kind of like a, something to know, like definitely make your payments because, the state will get theirs one way or the other. And then lastly, the supplemental resolution does provide some flexibility. It authorizes both, going through the bond bank, but also potentially doing a public offering if, for whatever reasons, things change and it becomes more favorable to, to kind of strike out on our own. So there is flexibility there. All that is, and the other terms like the repayment schedule, all that kind of stuff, that the supplemental resolution authorizes the chief administrative officer of the city as well as the general manager of BED to kind of finalize those things.
Questions?
I have one. So how long will this stay valid? Like, so, because you said you may or may not, you look at the market conditions, right? We know it's been a little bit volatile this year, so who knows what's going to happen. But if it looks good, you strike the irons hot. If it doesn't look good, you pause. How long do you have this authority to go into to refinance?
It's generally open-ended.
Okay.
There's
Whenever it looks good,
Yeah,
you can do
there's a
it.
delegation to the CA, Chief Administrative Officer of the city, together with General Manager, as to what is in the best interest of the electric department and its ratepayers.
Okay.
It's, so if rates, market rates increase and there's not sufficient savings, but then come the fall, rates go down, there's still that opportunity. The bond bank, however, only issues twice a year.
Oh, okay.
They do a
Got it.
summer offering, so that is, their board approves it in June. They go through a marketing process, soliciting interest from investors to get the best price, and expected closing in early August. Then they do a winter offering that usually happens around February, and an issuance in March. So that would be another opportunity. And this resolution would still be in effect. We would not need to come back to City Council or to the Electric Commission at that point.
Gotcha. Correct me if I understand this wrong, but I understood that once we applied to the bond bank and their board approved us as quote in the pool, unlike where you market yourself and you see, bids and you decide whether you like the price and you decide to issue or not, I remember there being mentioned some point of no return, which is sort of you're committed to the pool, and if the pool goes forward, you're on that boat, and you can't get off. Is that right?
That is correct, but the timing is when they commit to sell their bond. So they will
okay.
issue an offering document, solicit interest, and as the bids come in and they determine what the interest rate is that they're going to be charging to all the municipal borrowers, once they commit to the underwriter that's buying them, then that's locked in.
Okay.
But at that point of the sale, if there's no savings,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
It may not be the full expected savings, but as long as there's some net present value savings, when they price, they'll.
So there'll be an opportunity for further communication with the bond bank
That's
before they
correct.
make a final decision.
That's correct. Right.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Other questions, concerns?
This is not exactly germane to the bond issuance, but it's a question about the financing of the Winooski 1 sale. So the funds sit in a designated account and then they're used to make the payments on this? I'm just curious, how is the money left from, I just don't know, so I don't.
So all of the 12 million that was originally borrowed back in 2014 has been paid to Chase Mill Partnership or whoever was the dam owner that we bought the dam from. Okay, so the proceeds of that issuance have been fully spent. Now BED is sort of paying the mortgage, right, on that issuance through cash reserves and, operating funds. And so we build into the budget every year uses of cash for debt service. And paying this 12 million is just part of that debt service that we budget for. Does that answer
It
your
does,
question?
yeah. Got it, okay, now it makes sense. I just didn't understand the mechanics of it.
Yeah. And this 6.5 million is probably what you were gonna say.
Right, this 6.5 million will be borrowed and will be held by your bond trustee, Zions Bank Corp. And they will send out a notice to the bondholders saying, your bonds are now being paid, present your bond for payment. We hold this money in an escrow account. And so then the 2014 bonds are gone, no longer outstanding, no longer a liability, but the new series of 2025 bonds with a lower interest rate, lower debt service payments will then be on your books, on your ledger as a liability. Another plus is the board a couple years ago approved modifications to the resolution to extend the date by which your audit is due. It's currently 120 days, which is tight. Your auditor charges you a little higher premium because of the crunch time. So it's now once these 2014 bonds are paid off, those changes will go into effect. There's an improvement in choice of investments, of funds that are on reserve funds, and then an additional 60 days within which to complete your audit.
Other thoughts, questions? Is anybody interested in making a motion?
Yeah, I move that the Burlington Electric Commission approves to adopt supplemental resolution 18 as presented and recommend its adoption to the Board of Finance and City Council.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motioned and seconded. And in this case, I'll also offer up discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed indicate by saying nay. 5 ayes. Go to work. All right. All right. On to item number 8, the general manager update with General Manager Springer.
Great, thank you. So based on some of the feedback, as I mentioned, from Commissioner Boda, other commissioners, look for July to be the very much a revamped commission report. I think we're going to aim for 3 to 4 pages, key insightful items, highlights that you need to know. A lot of the data that's been in the commission report will continue to be available, but it'll be in the dashboard. So we'll share all that same data, but it'll be in the dashboard that goes along with the packet. This will be an iterative process, so as we change it, if you say, hey, I'm missing too much here, or need other changes, let us know. But it's a streamlining effort that we would like to make so that the report is less a recitation of things that have been done and more offers more insight for the commission for things that you may want to keep an eye on or be aware of. So we'll certainly make sure that the miscellaneous fee update is part of that for next month. Also next month, we'll bring you proposed changes for the 25-26 strategic direction. I don't have any yet. We've put out a call within the organization broadly for anybody to suggest edits, which is what we do every year. We hope that, while we maintain this one-page document with a variety of initiatives in it, that everybody sees a piece of their work within those various initiatives. And so to the extent we have changes, I think they'll be more evolutionary than revolutionary.
This microphone broke.
Oh, okay. But we'll bring you proposal in July, and then also suggest changes as well. And if there's enough there for a vote in July, we can do that, or certainly we can wait. Although I don't know if we'll plan to have an August meeting or not have an August meeting. Certainly up for discussion as well. But our goal will be to bring you a good strategic direction update in July that is action for the commission. So regulatory items I did mention earlier, and we are stressed, I think, on the regulatory side, the finance and policy and planning teams in particular with the rate case and a variety of other dockets. And Amber's on; she's been helping with some of these. Tom Lyle on James's team as well. We have some energy efficiency utility folks who are engaged in this work as well. But it is a pretty small group dealing with a increasing barrage in terms of just the volume of stuff that's going on. I'll share an example, and it's just an example, it's not the exhaustive list. We received an inquiry from the PUC on their own initiative, wasn't raised by a customer or by the department, requesting that we provide information within roughly a little over a 1-week period about the modular battery program, which, as you recall, last year through the Delta Climb partnership, we chose Moduli, which had the modular batteries that you can plug into a regular wall outlet. They're available for us to demo with renters as well as homeowners, so we were excited about that opportunity. And they were asking questions as to why the Moduli program hadn't gone through the PUC Innovative Rates program tariff that we use for example, the Energy Assistance Program when we put that in place. And the distinction, in our view, is there's no financial aspect whatsoever to the Moduli program with customers. It's not a rate-based program. We're not providing any compensation to customers to help demo the project. It's owned by BED. It's a capital asset of ours. We're going to retain the use of those batteries. The customer does not receive a bill credit. They don't pay anything. We don't pay anything. It's really a technology demonstration, which we have a number of analogous throughout our time here, technology demonstrations. Back in 2017, we had an electric bus that came to Burlington Electric, and we had a charger out front, and we were able to demonstrate that technology with Green Mountain Transit. There was no compensation for anybody involved, but we were a partner in demoing it with them. And then, of course, subsequently in 2020, they purchased 2 electric buses. We provided regulated incentives there, and they've purchased 5 more last summer, and we provided incentives there as well. So these demonstrations are a really valuable thing for us and for customers or partners. And so that's just one example where that's something I haven't seen before in my experience, to have that level of scrutiny on a demonstration program. We, of course, provided a timely response. We're hopeful that the PUC will clarify that they agree that there's not a regulatory component to that. Or alternatively, if they say there is, we'll have to hold off on the Moduli program while we go through the filing process for that, which will take some time. And the batteries just arrived last week, so we'd very much like to demo them with customers. But that takes time. That took time for Amber, James, myself, Emily, Bill Ellis, our attorney, to look at these things in that particular case. And then in other cases, we're putting in a lot of time as well. So I mentioned both for you to be aware that there's an intense level of regulatory process ongoing right now, and also that the team that's involved is, in my view, strained in terms of capacity. And we're doing our best to respond and move things off of our plate, be responsive to the regulatory process as much as we can be. Also in here that's an important item, Connecticut had some legislation that emerged via kind of an opaque process at the end of the legislative session, made a number of, at least opaque to us, we don't follow the Connecticut legislature closely, we keep an eye on things because we do sell into that rec market. But there was a bill that came through that reduced their renewable portfolio standard, which is not common in New England. We've mostly seen states increase those, was reducing it as part of a ratepayer affordability effort that they made. I did see that some legislators were lamenting that they were reducing it as opposed to continuing to be seen as a leading state on that issue. But regardless of that, they changed qualifications for a variety of things, including landfill gas, including biomass. The changes we're analyzing currently with our council in Connecticut, so I can't report definitively on what it means for us. It appeared that the changes required that for biomass to stay eligible as Connecticut one, you had to have some sort of contract for energy, not for RECs, with a Connecticut utility by the time of the enactment date of the section, which seems to be October of 2025. It's not clear. There's a number of questions we have. Does that mean, if you have an energy contract with Connecticut utility, are you eligible for the entire facility, regardless of how much output you're selling, or only for the portion of output that you're selling, you're eligible to sell Class 1 RECs? It appears that the eligibility remains as long as the contract remains, but that we're looking to clarify that as well. So we have some implementation questions that we've asked our council in Connecticut to provide clarity on. We'll report back to you as soon as we know it. This would be a significant financial impact if they've changed essentially overnight the qualifications for being able to sell into the Connecticut market. And we've talked about that in other contexts as well, but that's if you think about our rec revenues in a given year between 7 and 9 million roughly, not all of our resources have recs associated that we sell, because Hydro-Quebec, NYPA, hydropower, that's not generally qualified as anything other than Vermont 1, we use for our own purposes. So in a traditional year, 25 to 30% of our portfolio is being used for our own compliance purposes, but about 70% of it we're arbitraging for our ratepayer benefit. And McNeil is, probably close to half of that arbitrage, with wind being the primary other resource that we're able to do that with. So if you think about it, in a given year, that could be $3-4 million of lost revenue that you would have. So it would affect us as early as fiscal year 26. Now, we're filing the rate case on Friday. We're not looking to change the rate case at this point. There's too much unknown in terms of what the impact is or what turns out in Connecticut. But if that change took effect and if there was no exemption or mitigation strategy available to us, you could see a potential issue in a portion of the FY26 budget year, which we would have to take certain steps to mitigate. And then you could see the full issue in the FY27 budget year, which would be significant. So we're paying attention closely to this. We're going to hopefully have some analysis back from council next week. We'll update the commission likely in advance of the next meeting in real time as soon as we know things that we can share. But I wanted you make you aware that we're following that closely. Battery storage RFP that we had, we reopened to get updated pricing in terms of tariffs and incentive changes. So that'll be open for a little bit, and then we'll look to close it out and see what we can advance regarding battery storage. We also do have, as you can see here, some fencing up in the back here. We're doing a project where we're going to have a battery on site, mobile battery, that's going to help us mitigate peak demand this summer, both for monthly and annual peak. So it'll be a good experience for our team to be able to deploy the battery against those peaks, and will help us not only gain experience, but have some modest financial benefit, hopefully for ratepayers, if we're able to hit all of those peaks. Just a couple other items, policy related. We do have Synapse working with us on modeling for the energy benchmarking policy process that we're underway with. We're hoping to have a report out in July to the TUC about 3 different real-world examples of buildings in Burlington that we're modeling, essentially what they call an EUI, an efficiency target for those buildings, that would look at what if they were to fuel switch from gas to a heat pump-based system and take some other measures. What's the cost benefit of that? Hopefully it'll help inform the policy discussion at the city level. We've had some good conversations around what other cities are doing. If we do this, we'll be the smallest city, I think, in the country to take an approach like this. And as an aside, Jen Green and I had a nice conversation with the sustainability director in Bend, Oregon, who was looking at our carbon fee ordinance, and they're trying to see about policies like that they might look at adopting, or other types of policies. And they said that was fairly unique in their look around the country. As a complete aside, that's also the location of the last Blockbuster store in America. So if Bend, Oregon was in your mind for any reason, that might be why. I think there was a documentary about it. She said it was about a mile from her home, so pretty neat. And also with the 2 McNeil studies, those are both underway. We've kicked off with the 2 consultants. We have both of them scheduled to be at the TUC on June 24th at noon. So not the typical 5 o'clock meeting, but noon this month. And they'll be listening in for public feedback as they embark on their process per the resolution. I think there's some requirements in there that we make sure to give opportunities for the public to share thoughts with the consultants as they embark on their process. And then depending on when they have information available, whether that's in July or whether it's in September, we'll look to have them reporting back out to our various interested governing bodies in Burlington. And we're also hoping to get information from the wood chip dryer engineering firm in the next couple weeks, and then a report from them in July that'll give us the details on what the cost for that system might be and how much efficiency we think we can gain and what that does to our fuel cost economics for McNeil. And just lastly, FY26 rates and the Energy Assistance Program amendments were both approved unanimously at Board of Finance and City Council. So those are, as I mentioned, on their way to the PUC rate case being filed likely this Friday. Glad to answer any questions.
You. Questions?
I have one. Darren, are there other markets for RECs that could replace Connecticut?
There are other markets, none of them quite at the financial level that Connecticut offers for Connecticut Class 1. And, you can speculate about different reasons they might make a policy change. Connecticut Class 1 RECs, the alternative compliance payment level was $40, and those RECs have been trading very close to that level. So that means compliance has been fairly expensive, so they may be trying to back off of those requirements to lower the cost. But certainly, wood energy continues to be available in the Vermont, what we call the Vermont 1 market, the Vermont Tier 1 market, which means we'd use it for our own purposes. That market trades far lower than the $30 to $40 that you traditionally might see in Connecticut. You might see that more in the, I think it's been as low as $1 or as high as maybe closer to $10 at various points, and somewhere in the mid-range there potentially. So some value, not as much value, clearly. There are some other states that have markets for wood energy that we've explored a little bit in the past, whether or not we would qualify and how much value those would add. That's something we'd probably take a fresh look at, depending on what the analysis comes back with. I mean, all things equal, we've had a long-standing conversation, you probably remember this, Chair Moody, about trying to de-escalate the arbitrage with our RECs and use more of our RECs from our projects for our own purposes over a period of time. The challenge is that it's such a substantial dollar figure that we'd hope to do that in a phased way over a longer period of time. This may force that in a dramatic way in a short period of time, and that's not ideal. So we would look for other mitigation options that might be available, if any.
Yeah, it's a tough road to hoe.
It's also, do you think it's also kind of like a flow down from the federal, like the federal policies are relaxing, then states are saying we don't have to be as stringent?
It's an interesting point. I was at a Velco meeting all day today. We got to hear a little bit from ISO New England, from Gordon Van Wheely, who runs ISO New England, about some of the different trends at the federal level and what the ISO is seeing. And there's been a long-standing effort, obviously, to get offshore wind into the market. And some states are trying to push forward with that. Some are kind of turning back on that, either because of price or some of the delays that have been brought in from the federal level. There's a kind of renewed interest at the federal level in supporting fossil fuel plants. I think they ordered 2 plants to stay online that we're going to close. So it's certainly, the federal level is definitely a headwind. I think a lot of the states in New England, Connecticut included, still are having renewable policies that are intended to drive development. But we've talked about in the rate context that while Vermont's vertically integrated and relatively insulated, and I know it's never a fun story to say, hey, it could be worse.
Right.
Nobody wants the additional cost of any kind of rate case, but it is worse in some of the other states, and they are seeing those double-digit or 50% or in some cases 100% rate changes, and due to the volatility in the winter. And I think that type of rate shock based on being reliant on natural gas, either in the marketplace, not through contracts, but just being exposed to the volatility, might cause changes to some state policies. I think we've seen concerns raised at the highest levels in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, governors and commissions being very concerned about the rate impacts of reliance on natural gas. So I don't know that this is a trend or if this was sort of a one-off. We're not sure yet.
Can you remind me what, the June 2 meeting, so you mentioned consultants from McNeil are gonna be attending to listen and hear input from members of the public. How is Duke framing, the input, how they?
Yeah, my understanding, which, could change depending on how they structure the meeting, is there's a possibility maybe they'll have a specific public forum aimed at people who want to provide comments to the consultants, maybe a more general public forum for their other topics. That's one way they could structure it. We also offered that we will post in Front Porch Forum next week. Mike's not here anymore, but he's going to work on that to make sure the community is aware that we're going to have the consultants at the TUC meeting. And we're also working to create an email address, a time-limited email address at BED, that if somebody couldn't attend the meeting but they want to submit a comment, that we can auto-forward it to the consultants or gather it and forward it to the consultants so that there can be multiple ways that people can engage. So the TUC meeting is one opportunity. We're going to try to create this email address that can auto-forward to them as well. Yep.
While we're talking about that, I'm going to plan on attending that.
When is that again?
Is anybody
June
else?
20?
Yeah, it's June 24th at noon.
Planning.
It'll be at 645 Pine at the DPW office if you're looking to go in person. The consultants will be online, neither of them is based here. So you can also join online and listen in that way if it's more convenient. I believe they use Zoom, not Teams, but there will be a Zoom link on Civic Clerk, which is the website the city uses to post all the public meetings, including this one. So you're welcome to, I think you could join in person or just listen in via Zoom.
My question was if there was more than two of us that wanted to attend that.
That would probably be problematic.
Would that matter?
It would be a problem.
I think so.
Even if it was online or in person?
I believe
it probably
so,
wouldn't-
because you'd have a quorum,
We would have a quorum
and it wouldn't have
for-
been a noticed commission meeting, a joint commission meeting. The other option, obviously,
We'll stay in
if
touch.
more than two of you were looking to be a part of that, it'll be recorded, I imagine, and available so that you could watch after the fact. I hadn't thought, that's a good point, I hadn't thought about that in terms of if we had three commissioners there. But it would cause that issue, I believe.
Either way, whether online or offline, right?
Yeah.
I'm planning on attending.
Yeah, we'll
'cause
stay in
I'm
touch.
Definitely interested in it.
It's possible you can also listen in via Town Meeting TV on YouTube, if they have Town Meeting TV for that TUC meeting, in which case you're not joining the meeting via Zoom,
Right.
but
Yeah,
you're just listening
just a
in real
listener,
time.
right.
So that may be an option for some commissioners as well.
And Travis, do you know if we're covering that, or what TVC's covered?
24th, 2 Tuesdays from now. Okay, so it should be on YouTube, Town Meeting TV channel,
There you go.
in which case you could all watch at the same time and there wouldn't be any issue.
Could have a
Wouldn't-
watch party.
Wouldn't be
Only-
attending.
Only
Only
two
two.
at a time.
Couldn't have one.
Couldn't have a watch
Two at a
party.
time watch party.
Two people could watch
Yeah.
together, I believe, but other than that, no.
Okay.
What is the notice requirement, just while we're talking about it, the warning? How many days? I forgot.
Is it 3 days? Do you remember top of mind? 3 days, yeah.
Okay. One question I had, if we're okay to move to a separate topic, is looking at the strategic dashboard and thinking about, appreciate the reformatting of the updates. That'll save time to dig into the things that, you know, are sort of the topics at hand.
Mhm.
So that'll be helpful. And one of the things about the strategic dashboard that I just wanted to mention is that while there is a year goal and there's monthly progress, it doesn't sort of show like the financial forecast where we are sort of year to date.
Mm.
So that would be a helpful thing to understand, like, are we kind of red, yellow, or green on them?
Okay.
So, and I know that may be months down the road by the time that gets done and the new dashboard gets done, but just a bit of feedback that it's excellent in the financial statements because we can really understand where we are. And it would be helpful to see that there, I think, and make it more usable.
Okay, noted, we'll take that back.
Thanks.
I think we have kind of segued into the commissioner check-in, right?
I'd have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You may have said this, Darren, and I may have just missed it. With the new, with the energy assistance program rate that was passed and all that, and now the next step is to go to the PUC, what's the expected timeline of this? I know their timeline is out of your control, but.
Yeah, that's now a permanent tariff, not a innovative rates program. So that'll have to be filed as a tariff amendment. Originally, when we filed it, it was under this 18-month pilot program that has a specific kind of time notice at which point you can advance. But this will be more that we're filing it. Are we filing kind of simultaneous with the rate case or subsequent? Okay. So once we file, they'll do, I expect they will at least ask the department at a minimum for comment. And they could ask if there could be other parties who are interested, or they could ask other parties for comment. And they might ask us for more information, but it's a relatively straightforward set of changes to an existing tariff program. So I wouldn't expect it to be an incredibly lengthy process, just top of mind, assuming there's no hiccups that I'm not foreseeing. Hopefully it'd be a 3-4 month process.
That's helpful to understand, thanks.
Yep. Hopefully I'm not being optimistic, but we'll keep you updated.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to have a second.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicate by saying nay. We are adjourned. Thank you all for watching. Remember, 585 Pine, second Wednesday of the month. Come on down and join the conversation.